Welcome to the Healthcare Propelus ICOR info session. This is an info session for a short regional NSF ICOR program, which for the first time we're offering not exclusively for healthcare related startups. We welcome everybody, but the Propelus ICOR program that will be launched shortly is focused on de-risking healthcare startups and de-risking the decision that you have to make, which is translating your research, possibly from academia to industry. Okay, so this is the agenda. We're going to discuss what is ICOR, the specific pathway that it follows, because at this point ICOR is a relatively mature program, and it has a standardized curriculum. The benefits of participating, not just what we say, but also the perspective of these benefits from folks that have gone through ICOR, and what are the next opportunities, how to apply. Okay, before though describing what ICOR is, let me describe the problem that it endeavors to address. Most of you are in the basic research phase. Think of these, not drawn here is a timeline, with time going from left to right. NSF and a number of federal agencies want to see research translated into and scale up into the markets. That's all the way to the right here. That requires business formation, but most of you are in the basic research side, and you have to make the decision, is your research ready for business formation and scaling up for industry? The ICOR program is intended to address that middle stage, which is called the valley of death. Okay, your technology, no doubt, works in the lab. It might even be scalable. But the question is there a market for it? Which brings us to the question, why do most startups fail? This is a slide that everybody here has seen. The number one reason why startups fail is that they successfully build a product that nobody wants. They successfully implement some business model that was written outside the context of customer discovery. And there are many other reasons why startups fail. The NSF ICOR is intended to address that number one reason, building something that nobody wants. And really the only way to do that is by asking people, what do they want? Not asking people, do you want to buy what I have to offer? That's a very different question. And in fact, that's a question that biases the entire customer discovery process. That is something that you'll learn in the ICOR program. How to gather market data that you have not biased in your own process of acquiring that market data. So anyway, the ICOR program, both the regional and the national, all address that top reason that startups fail, building something that nobody wants, even if it is technologically feasible, even if it is proven to work. Okay, so the ICOR program itself, as I mentioned, it's relatively mature. It was established in 2011 out of the Office of the National Science Foundation, and that manages the SBIR program, okay, which was launched in the 80s. The SBIR program is a type of grant, the SBIR grants, that is exclusively for small for-profit businesses. NSF launched this in the early 80s. Since then, over a dozen other federal agencies have their type of SBIR grants. NSF realized in the late 2000 knots that even though a lot of the money that was going into these SBIR grants was yielding technology that worked, it was not yielding technology that was making it to the marketplace. In other words, a lot of startups, including startups that were funded by NSF, were falling under, were making that same mistake, same number one. So realizing, and basically NSF realized this slide right here. In 2011, they launched the I-Corps program. As 20 years earlier, when they launched the SBIR program, the I-Corps program is now offered by all these other federal agencies. All these federal agencies have SBIR programs intended to support the commercialization of technological innovation with societal significance. But as I mentioned, the I-Corps program is specifically for de-risking that, ensuring that whatever subsequent investments are made by the U.S. government and by you in your time and money is done for something for which there is a market. So I've explained the problem that exists right now, which motivated NSF to launch this I-Corps program, as well as all these other agencies. And you can start seeing the benefit to you, okay? If you are in this position where you've got some technologically validated research that you are considering bringing to market, you're probably wondering, exactly what market should I bring this to? Now you can now see how the NSF I-Corps program can benefit you, but we'll discuss the benefits to you in a moment. The specific training approach that I-Corps follows in order to de-risk the threat from that number one mistake of bringing something to that the market doesn't want, okay, is to guide teams through, I'll just read the slide here, early stage exploration of potential markets. Okay, it says market potential of potential users. And the only way to really ascertain what customers want is by conducting interviews. Now, I mentioned regional and national programs. There are three scales of the NSF I-Corps program. You all can participate in all three. We encourage you at some point to get to the third one. The first one is a half-day program where we introduce you in greater detail than we're doing now into the I-Corps program and the training approach. The second is a regional program, which is what we are announcing in this call today. It's 4 sessions where we all meet to discuss this concept of customer discovery and how to do these interviews to de-risk your research translation. And every participant gets $3,000. Okay, maybe I should have led with that. But those $3,000 are not intended for technological, research and development. Those $3,000 are for you to spend on expenses incurred doing customer discovery, doing those interviews. Why would you need $3,000 to do interviews? Conferences are a great way to conduct a lot of interviews in a short amount of time. The third level is a very extensive, very intensive 7-week program. Same concept. You have to interview 100 100 potential customers. And for that, you get $50,000. By the way, we mentioned customers. Even the concept of a customer is something that is discussed in these three I-Corps training programs. A very simple example, think of Uber. Who's the customer, the driver or the passenger? In healthcare, you have so many stakeholders, payers, users, endorsers, regulators. And all these different types of stakeholders must be happy for your business model to work. All these different types of stakeholders, you must sample, you must interview. Because if any one of those types of stakeholders objects to your innovation, there goes your business model. So this is the type of de-risking that I-Corps will teach you how to do. Before joining the NSF National Teams program, you have to have passed the regional program, because in fact, the application to the NSF, the intensive 7-week program, requires a letter of support from somebody at the regional program. All these programs are offered by a network of universities. The NSF National Innovation Network, which includes, which is formed by hubs. One of these hubs is the Northeast Hub, and I'll describe to you the hub right here. Okay. These are the different hubs in the United States. Rutgers and NJIT are part of the Northeast I-Corps hub. These are the other institutions that are part of it. So the training that you will get under the I-Corps program consists of faculty and staff and mentors from all these institutions. Mike, I believe I just ran through.
Yeah, I think actually it's probably time for me to take over. So let me, if you stop sharing, I will start sharing, and then we'll take over a few slides. Let's see if I can. Slideshow from the current slide. All right. So we've talked. So Cesar gave a great introduction in terms of what I-Corps is, a little bit of the history. And I wanted to talk a little bit, start off by talking about why it makes sense to participate in I-Corps. What's the value? What do you expect? What should you expect to get out of it? The NSF really established this program with the idea of commercializing technology, but the NSF really always leads in these kinds of programs with training. And so we want you to learn and learn from your potential customers. Why what is it that their problem is? We want you to kind of walk in the shoes of your potential customers and learn from them, and not to sell them your solution, but instead to really learn from them what kind of problems do they face, and would your solution potentially be a good fit for them? And so it really puts you face to face with real world problems that kind of confront your technology or your theory. People who participate in I-Corps come away with some skills, particularly if you're a PhD or postdoc. We at NJIT train our PhDs and postdocs how to be academics, which is wonderful. But the truth of the matter is only about 10 to 15% of them go on to academic careers. About 85, 90% of them go on to industry or corporate government careers. And basically, this is going to give you a sense of what's out there. What do people of these different agencies do? It's going to help you sort of talk about your technology in a way that is relevant to potential participants. You're going to build relationships, gain skills, and you're going to actually share. You're going to be together with a whole bunch of other startups or people who are contemplating startups, who are in kind of related spaces. And it turns out this community can really help each other an enormous amount. We've seen startups helping each other, and in some cases, in the process of doing the customer discovery interviews, we've seen entrepreneurial leads get offered jobs. And so, so it's again a chance to kind of get out into the world and really get out of the building, and see what's out there. Now, if you've gone through one of our programs, any of those programs that were just shown, but particularly the Novus or Propelus program, then you're kind of a member of our hub. And as a member of our hub, we then become an ongoing resource for you to figure out how to move forward. So I just saw a chat message that Ben is looking for an EL. And the answer is, Ben, we should have a conversation. We should talk about your technology and whether there might be a good EL that would fit in with your team, and whether we can find one from NJIT or one of the other partner schools, for example. And that's definitely kind of an ongoing engagement that we look for and we look forward to. Teams that go through our Propelus program, that's the one we're focusing on today, this healthcare Propelus. That's the 4-week program, have an opportunity to apply for this NSF National I-Corps Teams program. Normally, what you have to have what's called NSF Legacy, which is you have to have a grant that you've won in the past. This $3,000 grant counts as kind of NSF Legacy for the purpose of applying for the National I-Corps Teams program. And so this really is a stepping stone on a pathway that's been established. So Cesar talked about this being a somewhat mature program. It's mature and we're still making changes, but there's a pretty established pathway that you'll get to follow that we'll talk more about in a little bit. All right, so what do we think of as success in I-Corps? So I-Corps success, and this is a somewhat dated slide. I have somewhat more updated information. But I-Corps basically is looking to train an entrepreneurial workforce, right? Help people to start up companies. But even if you don't go to a startup yourself, every company wants to hire innovative employees and wants them to be able to think about the same skills that we're going to be talking about here. We want to translate technologies. We want to take things out of the ivory tower, out of the lab, and bring them into the real world. We want to enable economic impacts and nurture this general overall innovation ecosystem. And all these are missions, explicit missions of the hub where we want to work with you. Now, the most updated information that I got was actually from the report that was filed to Congress on the 10-year anniversary of I-Corps, where at that point there had been about 3,000 national teams that had gone through that $50,000 grant, probably 10 or 20 times that number had gone through regional programs. So much higher number, probably 10 times that number had gone through regional programs. Of those 3,000, a little over half had actually created startups. That is to say, not everybody does. When you go out there to explore commercialization, not everybody gets to a startup company, and that's okay. What the NSF is looking for is for you to take a serious consideration of this. But the number that followed is that the follow-on fundraising is actually over $3 billion from that first 10 years. So the $760 million is dated by a few years. So those companies have attracted $3 billion of additional money. That is a real win from the government's perspective, and Congress really appreciates that because the Congress and the NSF invested $300 million, and more than 10 times what the amount that they invested has been co-invested in kind of public-private partnerships. And so that's what we really think of as success. So who should apply? We're looking for teams. The canonical team has 3 members, but in fact, you really only need to apply with 2. And the 2 probably that you should be applying with are, in general, one is going to be a technical lead. With a university, we think of a faculty member, but within a hospital system or within a corporate environment, we might think of a technical lead, somebody who has maybe somebody who has deep technical experience, but somebody who's probably not going to be leading a startup. They have technical experience. They may have made a great discovery that's valuable in the world, but they have a job. They're chief of emergency medicine, and they're basically not going to leave their job chief of emergency medicine to go take a startup, but they have this great idea. And we pair them up with somebody we call an entrepreneurial lead, who we think of as in a university setting as a graduate student or postdoc, but it could be a junior colleague. It could be somebody who is not yet committed fully to their career in the institution, or who basically hasn't figured out their long-term role in the institution. And so they're kind of the sharp edge of this point of the spear who's going to be doing the training. And we think that they're probably going to be the initial lead for this startup venture. And there's a third person that every team eventually has to have if you're going to apply for a national program. not required for the regional program, but it's really good to have if you can. And that's somebody who's an industry mentor, somebody who call them an I-Corps mentor. And this is somebody who basically has experience in business in the domain where you think your potential markets lie. And that person can help you translate. Oftentimes they can help introduce you to potential customers. They can kind of open up their Rolodex or contacts to basically kind of give you some warm introductions, to give you potential customers to interview. They can also kind of just provide a little bit of reality check about how it is you can potentially go to market, or what kind of steps you're going to need to follow in order to successfully launch a new venture. So you don't need any prior federal funding. You don't even need to be already established as a company, although those things are certainly permissible. You must have a deep technology innovation. So we're looking for something where you're bringing something quite original to the marketplace. We are not looking for one more parking app, which is just helping people find parking places. But if you're using a lot of machine learning and AI, the answer is those things are possible. And you need to have at least 2 members to apply. So generally we think about technical lead and entrepreneurial lead, but Ben talked about having maybe a technical lead and a mentor, and that would be enough to apply, and we could then help you find an entrepreneurial lead potentially if you apply. So that's definitely in the cards. Okay, so what's notable about this particular Propelus is focused on healthcare. Every Propelus program that we've run so far to date has had a significant cohort, a sub-cohort of healthcare-related companies. And so we typically have at least 3 sub-cohorts, and we sometimes break them down into 5 or 6 sub-cohorts, but they may be people looking at diagnostics, people looking at medical devices, people looking at material science, people looking at software startups, people looking at B2B solutions, a variety of different kinds of subgroups. But we always have a significant number of healthcare startups. Now, one of the challenges is that healthcare startups are a little bit different from other startups, and we've noticed this. And we seek to bridge it within our regular Propelus program, but this program is really designed to specifically address some of those differences. When I-Corps was started and with the origins of I-Corps come from Steve Blank, as Cesar showed at Stanford and his Lean Launchpad course, he was really launching software startups, right? And so these were people who were launching some of those early apps and early applications, early SaaS solutions as software. And I-Corps was kind of conceptualized around those problems. Healthcare presents some unique challenges. There's really 3. I got 2 on the slide, but there's a 3rd one I'll mention. The first is that regulatory requirements are very important. You cannot get out of the starting gate if you do not understand what regulatory pathways or regulation you're going to fall under. And so regulations are going to determine your innovation pathway. And so we don't usually talk about regulation because it doesn't apply to a lot of startups, but in healthcare, it's really one of the dominant characteristics. And so if you don't know a kind of whether you're going to be a new device application or a 510K, or you're going to be applying with the FDA, or they're going to be applying in Europe under a CE mark process, those are going to drive your innovation pathway and who your potential customers are and how you go to market. So before you even start thinking about who you're going to interview, knowing the regulatory pathway gives you some guidance. The second one is, and we don't usually talk too explicitly in I-Corps about competition. It's out there. We know that it's out there. It's very important. But in healthcare, competition is a determinant of whether you're actually going to be able to launch or not. And in healthcare, we often think about kind of what are the standards of care. There are problems. How do we deal with that problem right now? What is the accepted method or procedures for dealing with various drug or disease or device kind of or therapeutic or diagnostic problems and challenges? And if you don't know the standard of care for the kind of problem you're approaching, then you're really going to have a hard time figuring out how you're going to enter the market or fit in. You must meet or exceed the standard of care as kind of your opening ante to get into the marketplace. The third unique challenge, we often think of software. I'm the software developer and I sell it to my customer. I give my software to the customer, they give me money, we've done a transaction. In healthcare, this concept of a customer, and Cesar kind of alluded to it, is somewhat amorphous. And what I mean by that is there are many people who are part of your customer ecosystem. So we often think about a beneficiary who benefits from this healthcare innovation, and that's going to often be the patient or but the end user, the person who's actually using the healthcare innovation, might often be a clinician, might be a doctor or a nurse, and so they might be the actual user, but then they can't use it unless it's been purchased. And with hospital systems, there's usually a committee that gets involved in accepting new innovations into the hospital system. There's a whole process for value-based care. And then you need to go through a purchasing agent. And of course, none of that happens if you haven't covered the regulatory hurdles. So in fact, we often think of the FDA as being a partner or even part of your customer ecosystem in order to enter the marketplace. So these three kind of elements, and you need all of those elements in order to be able to have success. And this is different from what we see in many non-healthcare startups. Now, this particular, so the canonical NSF I-Corps team has a professor as the technical lead, has a PhD student or postdoc as the entrepreneurial lead, and has a mentor who might be an alumni of the university or somebody related who basically has domain expertise, has worked in the industry. We're expecting and accepting and welcoming non-standard teams in this I-Corps Propelus for healthcare. We want people to be working on deep technology, but they could be coming from medical school, they could be coming from a hospital system, they could be connected to a commercial opportunity and looking for a way to broaden their existing commercial opportunity. And so all of those are going to be perfectly acceptable, and where there's going to be a technical lead, kind of that more senior domain expert, and there's going to be an entrepreneurial lead, somebody who's going to be leading the new venture or the new startup or the new opportunity, and then we're going to connect them with a mentor, certainly before we go on to the national program. All right, so what's our regional Propelus program? It's going to be 4 sessions over 4 weeks. So this is a first step. It's not a last step, but it basically is going to take people. We are designed to take people who have strong technical expertise and give them a kind of a taste of what this startup experience is like. So we're going to introduce them to 2 major tools. One is a business model canvas, which is a simple way. Its traditional one is 9 boxes. It's a simple way of laying out the main assumptions or hypotheses that you're thinking about ex ante for your potential business. We're going to add 2 boxes, one for regulatory environment, and the second one for standards of care. So we're going to actually be talking about an 11-box canvas in this Propelus. We're going to talk about what are the value propositions you're offering. So again, I work with technical people all the time. We tend to think of our technology as a bunch of features, but we're going to try to extract from those features what's the actual benefit that the customer is getting. So we often have a slide that shows a picture of a drill, and we say people don't really want to buy a drill. What they really want to buy is a 1/4-inch hole. And so the drill is just a way to get that 1/4-inch hole. And so we're going to talk about what those value propositions are that you're potentially offering, extracting beyond the features that you might normally be thinking of, and talk about how do you interview customers. Cesar also alluded to, we're not selling. This is not a program that's going to help you sell your solution, your product or service to customers. We're all about listening to customers, really trying to get them to tell us about their challenges and opportunities they face. And we want you to really learn how to create an archetype of a customer and how to really potentially walk in their shoes. We're going to generate insights through the interviewing process, and we're going to update that business model canvas. And so we're going to test those hypotheses by talking to potential customers, and that's going to lead us to update our business model canvas. And in the last session, we're going to talk about what do we learn and what are the next steps. And so the general format of this is what did I think in advance? What did I do? What kind of people did I talk to? What kind of data did I collect? What did I learn? How did I update my canvas? And then we're going to bring that full circle back. What do I do next? And so next, maybe continuing on, maybe going back to the lab, but it could be going on to this $50,000 national I-Corps team program. In addition to these 4 sessions, there's going to be weekly coaching sessions with the teaching team. We have a great teaching team. There's actually quite a few of us. We can give you a lot of one-on-one attention. We were looking to do that. But your contribution, in addition to these 4 sessions, we need you to get out of the building. We need you to get out of your lab or your comfort zone or your clinic and basically talk to at least 15 potential customers to do these customer discovery interviews and bring back your insights. Okay, enough talking sort of from the theoretical perspective. I want to introduce one of our colleagues, Charmi Chande, who's a recent PhD. She works in the opto-nano microfluidics laboratory from Professor Bassare at NJIT here. Charmi, I'm going to let you take it from here. But what I'm hoping she's going to do is tell us a little bit about her journey, because it's a personal journey. Yours is not going to be identical, but it gives you a sense of what to expect from I-Corps. So, Charmi.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mike, for that good intros. Hi, everyone. Myself, Charmi Chande. I am co-founder of Essence Diagnostics and Forever Chemicals, that's called as PFAS. That could be cancerous even at near zero level. And currently it takes around 14 days for the detection of these chemicals. We have a technology that we can detect it on site in 30 minutes. So just to give a brief about what my company is, we started this journey as many of you, like researcher in the lab setting and thinking that we have a great research work, but can we translate this into a product? And our very first step was to go through regional I-Corps, where we participated at NJIT regional I-Corps program, and we interviewed 15 potential customers to understand that where we stand, and where we realized that from that 15 customer interviews, there is definitely need for this market. But we wanted to understand more that what could be a route through us to get actually into the market, and what should be our go-to-market strategy. And there were so many other questions that we had. So for that, we participated in another level where we went for National I-Corps, where we completed more than 101 customer interviews. And through there, we got lots of insight that where we are exactly, who would be our potential partners, what we have to do to, in a way, to make ourselves, we were at that time at TRL level 1 or 2, technology readiness level 1 or 2. That is what made us realize that how we can go to higher TRL levels, who could be potentially partner and who could be our first line customers, where we can collaborate with them and we can get some samples for analysis and things like that. My journey just didn't stop at National I-Corps. I even participated as industrial mentor for many teams by now, and it's just recently that I am working as a pod mentor at cohort 11. So it has been a really amazing journey how it started from regional I-Corps. Just to give an idea that every startup has its own bumpy journey, and that's what even we had, where our business model canvas, like I won't be going into more detail, but just to give an idea that we had typical rainbow business model canvas. A rainbow business model canvas is something where we thought that, oh, it's a water testing kit. So like literally everybody everywhere in the world would like to have it, which we were definitely wrong. So it is through National I-Corps, we realized that we really have a very complicated system where we could actually categorize our customers into different segments. And as you can see on the screen, this is where, like, you know, how we started assuming that everyone could be our potential customer. And this is where we landed, segregating each customer type into different sections, where we realized that there's a regulatory sector, there's a private analytical laboratory sector, and there are consulting firms. So even there, we realized that who would be key player, who would be paying us, who would be user, who would be influencer, and everything. So by analyzing all this graph, this is where we came to conclusion that after 101 interviews, that these were our insights from our National I-Corps, where we realized that almost 92.9% of potential customer, they thought that PFAS or forever chemical screening is the important tool. And just to mention that there were almost around more than 51% of potential customer who wanted the technology then and there. Like they wanted something where they could do a qualitative analysis, whether that's a yes or no. So we didn't stop our journey at nationals. So we are still continuing it. So we are applying for different grants like SBIR and STTR grants. Also, we are collaborating. This was a very interesting fact where while we were interviewing some of the potential customers, there were some people who voluntarily came to us and said that, hey, we have the samples, you could use this. And that's how we were able to collaborate with some of the companies like Arcadis and GHD. So that was a great insight for us. This is just a lesson learned video that we made while doing our customer discovery. Maybe it's interesting for you guys.
Wow, a lot of lessons learned.
One comment on lessons learned. Certainly on the national level, on average, a team will find themselves pivoting several times during the course of the program. By pivot means who they thought their customer was going to be, what they thought their value proposition was going to be, ended up changing several times, changing in ways that the team did not anticipate at the beginning of the ICOR program. It's when you learn something that you did not anticipate, that is when you actually receive value from whatever it is you're doing.
So here, I'm gonna steal it back, John.
Yes. So Dr. Mike, it's all yours.
No problem. Oops. Let's try it. Sharing is caring. Okay, the current slide. Okay, so look, I think Sharmi went on a fantastic voyage. She learned a tremendous amount, and she's still on this trip. She's still even early on, but has a very promising go-to-market strategy. If you're still interested, we'd love you to participate. The application process is pretty straightforward. I'm going to run you through it pretty quickly, but please follow up with us. You want to form your team, figure out who your EL, TL, and IM are. Again, you must have at least 2 members to apply. You may have actually co-ELs and co-TLs, and that's definitely something we allow and even encourage. So a total team could be as many as 5, but again, you have to have at least 2 to apply. The online application is at this website, icornortheasthub.org. You can actually go ICOR NE or any, what's the short form actually that? Anyhow, the answer is the Northeast Hub. You can Google it. But the composition of the team for commercial feasibility, when I wanted a brief description of your technology, brief description of what you think the commercial impact is, that's your hypothesis. And what your brief description, what your current plan is for it. The review team will determine if the team is eligible. Again, we have a broad eligibility here, so we're looking to include people, not exclude people. So please, if you think you're a candidate or even potentially a candidate, please apply, and the review team will actually help you to fix your application if you need to. If we need to, we'll schedule an interview, but by and large, from a strong application, we just accept teams right away. If we needed, we can have a conference call with the entire team, the review team, to kind of go over where there's some issues. That's often led by Mark de Guzman, but I'm part of that review team as well. Kate and the others will be part of that process as well. Again, that interview is going to really focus on your availability and commitment. What we're looking for, these $3,000 grants, is to support your learning. And we want to give those grants to people that are seriously engaged with the potential for commercialization. They're not committed to it, but at least commercialization. If your successful teams get invited, the entire team must attend all 4 of those training sessions and commit to completing all the assignments, including the interviews. So we're looking for your commitment to match up with the NSF's commitment of giving you a $3,000 grant. That $3,000 grant is not for basic research, but it's really to facilitate your getting out of the building and talking to these potential customers and going to conferences or meetings or doing what you need to do in order to give you funds to learn. Unsuccessful teams may not be invited, but they're going to give guidance on what they need to do to reapply. So again, we run these programs typically about 8 times a year now, and again, if you don't get into this healthcare Propelus, there's going to be further opportunities. Here's the slide. So there's the short form of the website, which I'll try and remember: www.icorene.org. That's the short form of our website, which has information about the hub in general. You can apply directly from there, and it gives you a chance to earn this grant. The 4 days that we're holding sessions are September 14th, 19th, 26th, and October 10th. And this is going to be a morning program from 9:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. We hold some in the afternoon. We hold some. The last cohort was done in the evening. So again, we're trying to make this accessible to anybody that's potentially interested. There's some other upcoming programs. I want to just kind of tell you briefly about other things we're doing. We have a series that Mark runs called Innovating Together. In this case, we're on August 7th, Monday, talking about bringing together the SBDC leads from New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Delaware, and Connecticut. And those are people who can help plug you small business administration. These are federal government funded centers designed to help startups. We have a couple of Novus programs coming up as well. This is that half-day program where we can introduce you. We have a virtual one coming up on Thursday, August 17th. And we have another one that's going to be in person on Friday, September 22nd. So those are both opportunities for you to do a deeper dive. And they're available. If you go to the website, you can find more information. You can register for these programs as well. I'm trying to reserve time for this crucial point of question and answers. So we're up to that. So tell us about, and please feel free to raise your hand, because there's actually now kind of a few of us on the call. Raise your hand, we'll call upon you, and let us know what questions you have. Please ask them, because again, we've reserved the time, and any question you ask is probably helpful to some other people as well.
Mike, one thing I just wanted to clarify for everyone, Sandy has a question, but real quick, this healthcare Propelus is designed for those teams with healthcare innovations, but that doesn't mean it's the only cohort that teams with healthcare innovations can apply for. They can always apply for a future cohort, but this one is dedicated for healthcare innovations. Okay, go ahead. You can, Mike, you can fill in.
Yes, so go ahead, please, thanks.
So just a quick question as it relates to the application. So we applied. When do we actually officially hear or get an invitation?
Should be actually quite soon. So the application deadline is the 23rd. We kind of have a rolling admissions process, but the review team doesn't usually get together until we have kind of a critical mass of applications in hand already. And so really following this information session, we're probably expecting to get probably more applications. And so we'll start notifying people probably within about a week or 10 days. Mark, is that about right?
Right. Usually, well, the deadline is the 23rd. So usually a few days after that is when we have teams getting responses after that. So if there's a problem with your application, then we would flag it and we would alert you sooner if there's a problem. But if there's no real problem, then you should wait until the 20-something.
Great. But again, we're expecting to say yes is the short answer, unless we find a problem with your application. And I don't think we did. So Sudhakar.
Yes, hi, thank you. Does healthcare include mental health, behavioral health as well in your definition?
Definitely yes.
Right.
Definitely, yes. In fact, actually, we would love to see mental health issues, because of course, I think those are huge issues and there's a huge opportunity. Yeah, absolutely.
Fantastic. Thank you. And then I couldn't hear if Charmy, when she was presenting, she was talking about making all those and being able to hone in on the specific target. But in the course of the program, for making those interviews, the time is not the issue. The issue is always access to the kind of people that we would want to get to. Is that something that we could potentially hope to be able to get from this group?
So the answer is yes. Ideally, your mentor, your I-Corps mentor as part of your team, is going to be kind of connected to industry, is be able to open some doors for you to get started. We generally offer the strategy that what I call the snowball strategy, where when you get one good interview, ask them to introduce you to 2 or 3 more people, and you kind of get a little bit of a snowball effect that way. We do encourage you to use LinkedIn. We actually encourage you to use to get a paid LinkedIn membership that allows you to troll through LinkedIn to find sort of potential candidates, and that's been effective for a lot of teams as well. Finding the right people for interviewing is definitely hard. Getting to the top people is hard, but oftentimes you can get to people who are kind of influencers or people who are recommenders or people who are knowledgeable about the space. And those count as interviews as well, even if they're not with the actual ultimate decision maker. I mean, if you think the provost of the university is your decision maker, maybe you're hard to set a meeting with the provost, but you might be able to set a meeting with the assistant dean for engineering. And the assistant dean for engineering knows a lot about how the provost makes decisions and can give you input, and they've worked on that.
So you could use proxies, kind of, right?
People who are nearby as influencers or recommenders is a common way to get started.
One final thing there, just based on your answer. So the mentor is assigned by you guys, so you would know the people that are.
So the mentor, hopefully you find from your connections, but ultimately we bring in, so that's complicated. There's a mentor who's part of the team that I am, but then there's also going to be a bunch of mentors that we're going to bring into who are domain experts who are going to be working with all of you. So yes, we will provide a lot of mentorship as part of the program. There's actually about a half dozen domain expert mentors in devices and diagnostics and new device applications, etc. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much.
I want to add one thing. I'm seeing the same question appearing in the chat as well verbally. Does my technology is my technology relevant for the program? I'm gonna, in a moment, I'll paste in the chat. Even though this is an NSF program, don't think that you are limited to technologies that you think NSF might fund, like under the SBIR program. If any branch of NIH would be interested in your innovation, or if your innovation is aligned with the mission of anybody at NIH, you've come to the right place. Okay, and this is a much broader scope than just what, in terms of healthcare, than what NSF is interested in. There is an omnibus solicitation for the SBIR program. I'll post a link there. Certainly, if things like healthcare disparities, healthcare training, okay, not the traditional healthcare technologies that one thinks of, but these are all, there are whole institutes within NIH dedicated to that. These also qualify as well. So I just wanted to clarify.
Great, thank you, Cesar. Let's let John ask his question, because he's been patient with his hand raised.
Hi, first of all, I hope that you'll include some industry mentors from mental health services.
So that's a good question, actually. So in terms of pod mentors, I don't know if we have any mental health experts in that group right now, but we could potentially add somebody if there's enough interest, for sure. Okay, that would be great. The other thing I'm thinking, the assignment is to do 15 interviews, and thinking ahead of time, I need to have some places or interviews in mind before then, or I'm not going to get to 15. I can only think of going to these people and trying to sell them my product. How would you suggest a shift immediately in approaching, just to see if they would be open to an interview for this program? We actually talk about this a good bit in the program, because this is definitely a fairly common challenge. We actually suggest that you do not present yourself as a startup company trying to sell something, because people hear you're trying to sell me something and immediately they say, no, I don't want to talk. What we encourage you to do is to say that you are an NSF funded team that is exploring new innovations, and they're in the space where you think this person you're trying to talk to is an expert, would they be willing to give you 20 minutes of their time to like to help teach us about this area that we don't know enough about as part of our and it's required to talk to people like them as part of our I-Corps funding, NSF funding. Approaching people that way, first of all, it's true. And second of all, it's kind of a little bit disarming because you're basically saying that I'm a federally funded program, which you will be, and that you're really looking to learn, which is what you're trying to do. They may say to you, tell me more about your research before, like, what are you doing? And which would encourage you to then tell them about your solution, which can then potentially bias the interview. What we say is that basically you don't want to do that. You want to hear what they have to say without buying us by saying what it is, what it is you're trying to show off. And so oftentimes I will deflect a little bit. And what I'll say is, I'd love to tell you about my technology, but the NSF rules are that I can't really do that until we've had I don't want to bias the conversation. Can I ask you a few questions before we do anything, but before we do that? And the answer is most people understand that and say yes. So there are kind of best practices for interviewing. We actually go through kind of how do you potentially engage people, and then once you engage some people, and again, it's hard, by the way. I don't want to say talking to 15 people is hard. You're going to probably reach out to maybe 150 people to get 15 good interviews, right? That wouldn't be exceptional at all. So I'm not saying this is nothing, but using tools like LinkedIn, using your network, using warm introductions, getting people who you've spoken to give you an introduction to somebody further, are all good strategies to help you kind of move through these 15 interviews. Does that help?
Yes, thank you.
Great. Okay, we have a couple minutes left. We're coming towards the end. More questions before we let you go for the day, and hopefully we'll see you applying. I'm looking forward to many applications. We're looking forward to have a big group, and we're really excited to have this very first healthcare focused Propelus, and hope that you join us on this little adventure.
And
I see a hand
there were
raised.
so many.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
There were so many links there that I think every one of them are useful, and it's so hard for me to.
Yes. So I think we're going to send the slide deck. Mark, can we send the slide deck to all the participants? Yeah, I think we're going to send the slide deck to all the people who registered for the course.
Which includes those links, and we are
getting. It'll have the links. Yeah, we'll send the links and the recording and the slides for this event.
And I had to thank John Calvin for asking for the mentor. Second that. So you have 2 votes at least.
Great.
Yes.
So actually, that's a good heads up for us. If there's going to be a lot of mental health participants, we need to make sure that we can help you with good mentorship. Absolutely.
Thank you, sir.
I'll follow up on that.
And Mike Neil Ray asked a question about if they're from the Northeast region, but they're not from one of the institutions. Can they apply? I don't know if you want to.
Definitely yes. In fact, actually, we're the hub, but we're not all the spokes. And so we're looking for lots of participation from other academic institutions, non-academic institutions. Again, we're looking, if you have a corporate entity, if you're coming from Johnson & Johnson or Merck or Pfizer, or those are all welcome. Smaller startups also welcome. Hospital systems, healthcare. Again, all of these are going to be welcome applications. All right. Well, we have not abused you and gone over time. John, did you have another question for us? No. Okay. So we haven't abused you and gone over time. We actually have 2 minutes left, but I'm always happy to end slightly early. So if we don't have any more questions, I think we can probably call it a day. But we're really looking for your participation. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be fun. I'm excited about it, and Cesar and I will be co-leading it. But we have like a really good group of people who are going to be all instructors and adjuncts and mentors for this program.
All right, Mike, the one thing I wanted to mention is that we have many people from those affiliated institutions from the hub. So if you are from one of those institutions, definitely reach out to the faculty lead from your institution to help answer questions about I-Corps in terms of team formation or preparing for the cohort. I did put that link in the chat earlier. I don't know if you could see it there, but definitely work with them, because I know there's many people from different institutions. We definitely want you to feel supported, and you're not alone. So we want to help you apply and be successful through this program so you can successfully commercialize those technologies.
Right. And so we have additional questions.
One last question. Sorry.
Please, of course.
And so our university, I guess every university too requires you to submit a grant routing form if you're getting external grant. Is this something that I need to do?
So the short answer is probably not. And the
Okay.
reason is the grant is actually, the money is actually held by Princeton University, and they'll reimburse you that $3,000 on a reimbursement basis based on your expenses.
Oh, you submit a
so-
receipt?
So basically, so yeah, you'll save your receipts for customer discovery, like your LinkedIn membership. You'll submit it at the end, and they'll reimburse you for those expenses.
Gotcha.
You probably don't need a separate sponsored research or grant process for your
Yeah, that's
university.
a lot.
For a
Yeah.
$3,000 grant, which is just a lot of overhead for a $3,000 grant. So we do this. We try to streamline this as kind of a reimbursement through Princeton.
Thank you.
Good question, though.
You're great. Hope to see you.
I did want to alert people, the icorene.org link for some reason has not been working. So just Google Northeast iCore Hub, or we can put it in the chat here. It's I forgot the name of the actual website. It's icorenortheasthub.org. So I'll put it in the chat here. It just happened recently. I don't know why the icorene.org is not working. So use this icorenortheasthub.org website.
And you can Google it, and we pop right up. And I left my email there. So, for those of you who go to your faculty leads, feel free to do that. But if you have other questions, you can reach out to myself or Mark or Cesar. But I left my email there. It's kind of available for anybody who wants to use it. All right, we are now slightly past 2 o'clock, but not far. So I think we're going to close it for the day. But thank you for joining us. It's been delightful, and hopefully this was helpful. And we're looking for your applications.
So good. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
All right.